Hooey! What's going on, guys? Kackis here. Thank you so much for stopping by, and today we're going to be going over the 5 most underused exotic weapons for PvE in Destiny 2. Now, a while ago, I looked at the 5 least used exotic weapons in PvE. Some surprising things there, some actually pretty good exotics in that list, and some really hard to get exotics. It was an interesting thing to look at, but this usage chart at Destiny Tracker also showcased some exotic weapons that are, in my opinion, way too far down on this list. They are incredibly good, in some cases some of the best damaging exotics for PvE in the game, and yet their place on this list is so sad. So we're going to be highlighting those. If you guys have these exotics, absolutely try them out, show them some love, and I think you could often find some really powerful options to add to your loadouts. And so, let's get started. Just before we do, if you're going to make the most of those real gamer hours, you gotta feel energetic. Check out Advanced GG Focus, use code KackisHD for 10% off, and just get gaming. Come on, guys. Now, to properly understand this list, we need to look at the other end of the spectrum. What are the top 3 most used PvE exotic weapons? Well, in first place, we have the Izanagi's Burden at 3.22% usage rate. We also have kills and headshots being measured here. In second place, the Leviathan's Breath, and in third place, the Ariana's Vow. It actually used to be, last time we checked, the Leviathan's Breath in first place, so the Izanagi's has taken over, but this really makes sense here. We have a mix of pretty darn good exotics. The Izanagi's is arguably the best one in PvE right now. The Leviathan's Breath is actually a pretty darn solid exotic, and it's also pretty easy to get and pretty new, and the Ariana's Vow isn't terrible either, and it's incredibly easy to get. You literally click something in your Season's Pass. So those are the factors that go into a weapon's usage rate. Well, let's get started on our list with the 5th most underused exotic weapon in PvE, and that is the Coldheart exotic trace rifle. Coming in at 0.205%, it's in 37th place out of 60 exotics. Technically 61, but the Telesto is actually disabled right now. So, this thing has the exotic intrinsic perk Cold Fusion. This weapon shoots a steady cold fusion powered laser. It also has another unique perk here with Longest Winter. Coldheart's laser does exponentially more damage the longer it remains on target. I think this is a phenomenal weapon, and most criminally, it is actually being used less than its other exotic trace rifle counterparts. More people are using the Wave Splitter. More people are using the Prometheus lens, and although the Prometheus lens is better for sure against ad clearing, I mean, you want your special weapon to be good at killing those majors, and the Coldheart is, I think, the best trace rifle of the lot for doing so. Now, the Wave Splitter actually outdamages it if you, get orbs every single time you're shooting it. You have to do a lot of setup in order to make the Wave Splitter work. The Coldheart is just the most consistently good trace rifle, and it can output a ton of damage. A ton of damage, because it has just so much ammo, and because it ramps up in damage, its total damage is some of the most impressive you can get out of any exotic weapon. Its total damage for the amount of ammo it has surpasses weapons like the Izanagi's Burden actually, and other really phenomenal exotics. Not to mention, this is just an exotic weapon in the loot pool for all players. Even new light players have access to this weapon, and out of those new light weapons, this is one of the best for boss DPS and overall usage. This thing should be used way higher, and I think people, because it's so old, have just forgotten exactly how good it is. Don't forget that a while back, trace rifles specifically got a big damage buff for PvE. Their precision damage multipliers were actually increased, so check this thing out. But moving on from there, we need to talk about what's number 4 on the list, and that is the Herbalist. This thing is at 47th place down the list, coming in at a sad 0.142% usage rate. More people are using the Colony, the Borealis, and the Mida multi-tool in PvE than the Herbalist, and that's just a crime because this weapon has the exotic intrinsic perk Compounding Force. Fires slugs that cause massive damage to elemental shields of enemy combatants. Now, it also has the perk, this isn't unique but it really matters, Disruption Break. Breaking an enemy's shield with this weapon makes them more vulnerable to kinetic damage for a brief period. Well, this is a kinetic weapon. In fact, this is really the only kinetic weapon in the game that can deal with shields like it was an energy weapon. So if you're running the Herbalist, that means you're running it and an energy weapon, and so every shield you see is really easily poppable. And that's actually going to matter quite a bit in higher level PvE activities, not to mention that this thing buffs itself when it breaks shields. And the thing is, this weapon is really good for two reasons. Number one, it's just a really solid special weapon to be using. It's kind of like using a sniper rifle, but way easier to use. You're not having to zoom down sights with a scope. You have a very easy to use sight, and landing headshots is a breeze with this thing, but it basically does hard-hitting sniper rifle damage. You're going to one-shot kill most of the enemies you find. Like that knight, one-shot kill. The yellow bar knight, well, maybe a two-shot kill, but it's really easy to get those done. And the second part of why I feel this gun is so good is that its overall damage output is really good. Like, I don't know why people think that it isn't, but it's good. I remember testing this thing out for a raid versus video in the Last Wish, and it was able to one-phase a lot of the Last Wish bosses. One-phased Morgoth, no problem. I think one-phased Kali. This thing outputs a lot of damage. You can see in the background gameplay, I'm the main person damaging Savathun here, or the Shrieker I should say, and I'm chunking it every single shot, and you're getting quite a lot of shots on pretty quickly. And next thing you know, this strike boss is dead. But we do need to move on from there to number 3 on our list. Coming in at 38th place, we have the Bad Juju Exotic Pulse Rifle. This has a usage rate of 0.201%. It's actually just below the Coldheart, but this is arguably the best exotic primary weapon in the game for PvE. Why is it this far down? Guys, more people are using the Vigilance Wing in PvE than the Bad Juju. More people are using the Thorn, the Crimson, the Suros Regime than the Bad Juju. Now granted, those weapons could be easier to get, but still, come on guys, the Bad Juju is so much better than all of those options. Its exotic intrinsic perk is String of Curses. Kills refill the magazine, increase damage for a short duration, and grant super energy based on the strength of String of Curses. Fires in full auto. So it's essentially like getting a legendary pulse rifle with full auto, swashbuckler, and sustenance, except it doesn't have any drawback of sustenance, and it gives you your super back more. That's kind of banana sandwiches. And it really does get your super back faster. If you're getting kills with this weapon, it's approximately more than double the rate of if you were getting kills with a normal, like, legendary weapon. And not only that, but you can actually masterwork this weapon, and that means it's also producing orbs to even further increase that super regeneration. I was using it in the Altars of Sorrow activity, combined with the Geomag stabilizers for my Warlock, and that is a wombo combo. Like, I'm getting my super back all the time. I am using it against pretty much every single nightmare that spawns and absolutely decimating them with it. It is a really good combo. And for whatever reason, people just really overlook this weapon. I mean, in the background gameplay, you can see there's times I'm killing dozens of enemies spawning here. I never reload. I never ever reload. I'm just slaying out. So, if you're going to use an exotic in your primary slot, the Bad Juju is honestly up there with the Outbreak Perfected, the Risk Runner, the Monte Carlo as one of the best exotic primaries out there for PvE. Definitely not 38th down on the list. But moving on from there, we have to get to the number 2 spot on our list, and this is where things get really ridiculous. At 46th place, we have the Legend of Acreus. Now you can see here it's, for whatever reason, split into 2 different versions, and I combined both of those usage numbers to get a 0.1456%, and that is at 46th, or would be at 46th place. Now, this thing is way too far down on the list. It is a little bit difficult to get. It does involve doing some raid shenanigans, but for a lot of it, you can just go and do the first part of the raid like over and over again to get some of the materials needed to get the Legend of Acreus. So it really isn't as hard as some people, I think, believe it is to get. In any event, its intrinsic perk is Shock Blast. This weapon fires blasts of high damage arc energy that overpenetrate enemies. It's really not too uncommon to get multiple kills with one shot. It also has Long March, detects enemies on your radar from farther away, but that really doesn't matter too much. This thing's damage is absurd, and it is one of the very few weapons that has actually benefited from the removal of auto-loading, because what you're able to do with the Legend of Acreus is reload, shoot, reload, shoot, reload, shoot. So, if you have things like an enhanced shotgun reloader mod or your in a Lunafaction well, essentially whereas most guns would lose DPS once they have to reload and then they shoot again, then they reload, you are essentially matching this gun's fire rate when you're reloading, because once you run out of ammo with that first magazine, you then just go into reload shoot mode, and you're reloading so fast and shooting so fast after that you essentially don't lose any DPS. It's just a consistent fire rate the entire time, even factoring in reloads. Very few other guns can do that, and it means that its sustained damage output is, better than the Izanagi's Burden, no big deal. Guys, the Legend of Acreus is actually just behind the Whisper of the Worm with Whispered Breathing activated. And the Whisper of the Worm has a super high usage rate. It's actually ranked at number 5 on this list, and the Legend of Acreus is just barely below it in terms of overall damage output, and it's 46th? Guess what? The Legend of Acreus is way easier to use in a lot of encounters than the Whisper of the Worm. You can use it in Vex Offensive, Nightmare Hunts, Strikes, and you're going to have an unbelievably powerful shotgun that one-shot kills yellow bars all the time and destroys bosses, honestly. Not to mention that one of the benefits of running this is that you can run Shotgun Ammo Finder, Shotgun Ammo Scavenger, also run a really solid legendary shotgun in the special slot like the Escalation Shotgun, and then go into Vex Offensive or the Altars of Sorrows and just absolutely murk those nightmares up close with double really powerful shotguns. You run out of ammo for your Legend of Acreus, don't worry, you got your Escalation Shotgun. You run out of ammo for your Escalation Shotgun, you got your Legend of Acreus. You can literally just swap back and forth, decimating all enemies close range. Get this gun out of your collections and use it more, because this deserves to be way higher on the list. But there is an actual weapon that's even better and even lower on the list. I honestly could not believe how low this weapon is ranked in terms of usage. Our number 1 most underused exotic in PvE is, coming in at 51st place, the Lord of Wolves at 0.102% usage. Guys, this is criminal. So let's take a look at the Lord of Wolves. Intrinsically, you have Shrapnel Launcher, fires a powerful short-range burst of solar damage, and then you've got another unique perk, Release the Wolves, hold reload to swap to a longer, more powerful burst. Now, here's the thing. The Lord of Wolves is 51st place down the list. The Izanagi's Burden is 1st place on the list. However, the Lord of Wolves out DPS's the Izanagi's Burden. A lot of people don't know this. They think the Izanagi's Burden is like so far above everything else. No, the Lord of Wolves does more damage than the Izanagi's Burden. The only way the Izanagi's Burden starts to beat the Lord of Wolves is in a lunafaction well. Like, it has to have reload bonuses, and then over a sustained period of time, the Izanagi's Burden will come out on top. If you don't have that set up and you're running around in a lot of normal activities, even in the Pit of Heresy, I was using the Lord of Wolves before I looked at this list, and it was phenomenal. There's so many enemies close range that you need to deal with. So if you're not setting up for a big damage phase like in the Garden of Salvation raid, yeah, in that scenario, Izanagi's Burden is the best. But for most other activities, Lord of Wolves is actually better. So why is this 51st on the list? One of the biggest boons to this weapon is the fact that it got quote-unquote nerfed for PvP. This thing was absolutely dominating, and previously you'd have to get a kill for Release the Wolves to activate. So essentially it's a 5-round burst, and then when you would get a kill, it would go to a 10-round burst, and its damage overall would increase. But because it was, again, quote-unquote nerfed for PvP, and now you can just turn on the Release the Wolves perk, it means that you can always turn it on immediately without having to get a kill in PvE. And that means super fast firing, 10-round bursts all the time. You will chew through nightmares in the Altars of Sorrow. You will chew through enemies. It does phenomenal damage against bosses. It's really fantastic. Now, admittedly, one of the reasons it is probably lower on this list is the fact that it is kind of harder to get. You need to be doing the spider bounties, like the actual hunting the wanted enemies bounties, and then you just randomly get it for turning those in. Now, those are really not too difficult, especially the lower level ones. Not too difficult at all, and the reward is a super powerful weapon. 100% worth getting, 100% worth using, especially in just all those non-raid activities. I see so many people running around with Izanagi's Burden, trying to quickscope nightmares and stuff, and they just miss half the time. Like, it's not worth it. Lord of Wolves is so much more forgiving and easy to use. So get this weapon or get it out of your vaults and show it some love. Guys, that's it for the video. I hope you enjoyed, found this interesting. If you did, please remember to help me out by simply rating and especially sharing this video. If you guys want to see more Destiny 2 content similar to this, don't be afraid to slap that subscribe button. If you want to get in touch with me and keep up to date with the latest channel activity, the best way is to follow me on Twitter at RickKackis. That's linked in the description down below. Again, I hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, have a good day.